Can you believe it? My father gave my house to my deadbeat brother without asking me. Carlos has no place to go. Don't complicate things, Dad said when I confronted him. I said nothing, but I did complicate things. 1 week later, they were both panicking. Sup, Reddit. This is the story of how I nuked my family after my father gave my house to my brother. Yup, you heard that right. He even acted like he was doing me a favor. Here's what happened. Picture this. I'm, 28 male, driving home from another 12-hour shift pouring concrete, my back's killing me, and all I want is to crack open a drink in my own house. The house I bought with money earned bleeding on construction sites. I pull into my driveway, and there's my brother Carlos's piece of shit Honda taking up my spot. Not just parked there, moved in. The trunk's open, showing boxes of his crap. My stomach drops because he doesn't just visit. Carlos infests places like a parasite. The front door's propped open with one of my dining room chairs. Music's blasting from inside. Some shitty rap that Carlos thinks makes him sound tough. I can smell weed smoke drifting out, which is just perfect since I live in a neighborhood with a freaking HOA that loves to fine people for breathing wrong. I walk through my own front door like I'm entering enemy territory. Carlos is sprawled across my leather couch with his feet up on my coffee table. Empty bottles scattered around, pizza boxes on my kitchen counter, and music coming from the bathroom where someone's taking a shower. The TV's showing his Xbox dashboard, meaning he's already hooked up his gaming setup to my 65-inch Samsung. The audacity hit me like a brick. This wasn't just crashing at someone's place. This was a full occupation. He had spread his shit around like he was marking territory. His dirty clothes were thrown over the chair I'd spent weekends restoring. His cigarette butts were crushed into the ashtray. Oh, hey, little bro. He glances up from his game with a casual smile. You're home early. What the hell are you doing in my house, Carlos? Relax, man. Dad said you'd probably be cool with it once you heard the whole story. He pauses his game and sits up, trying to look serious. Look, I know this is weird, but I'm in a really bad spot right now. The thing about Carlos is he's always been good at playing victim. Even as kids, he could twist any situation to make himself look wronged. What kind of spot? The divorce finalized last week. Marisol got the house, most of our stuff. I've been crashing at friends' places, but that's not working out long term. Dad offered to help me get back on my feet. By giving you my house? Are you being serious? By transferring the house to me, yeah. Temporarily. He holds up his hands like he's trying to calm me down. Chill, bro. It's just until I can get my shit together and find my own place. This is my house. I bought it. I pay the mortgage. I know, and I appreciate everything you've done. But Dad's name is on the paperwork too, right? Co-signer or whatever? He said that gives him some say in what happens with the place. He transferred the deed without asking me? Look, I didn't ask him to do this. When he suggested it, I told him he should talk to you first. But he said you'd been working so much lately, he didn't want to bother you with family drama. I think he was trying to help both of us, you know? Give me a place to stay and take some of the financial pressure off you. The manipulation was textbook Carlos. I don't have financial pressure. Come on, man. I know what construction workers make. Mortgage on a place like this can't be easy. The assumption pisses me off, but Carlos doesn't seem to mean it maliciously. More like he's genuinely trying to rationalize Dad's decision. Who the hell is in the shower? Vanessa, my girlfriend. She's been staying with me since the divorce stuff started. He looks embarrassed. I know it's a lot to spring on you at once. Right then, this chick walks out of my bathroom wrapped in my towel. My towel. She's got that whole trashy hot thing going. Too much makeup, fake nails and lashes. The whole package. She looks at me like I'm the one who doesn't belong here. Babe, who's this? She asks Carlos. This is my brother. The one I told you about. She nods like she's been briefed on the situation. Oh, the one who's been so generous about letting us stay here? Nice to meet you. Generous. Cool. I tried calling Dad immediately. Straight to voicemail. Second call, same thing. Third call goes directly to voicemail without ringing. He's not going to answer right now, Carlos says. He said you'd probably want to talk, but he's giving you some time to process everything first. Process what? That he gave away my house? That he's trying to help his family? He stands up, and his tone gets a little sharper. Look, I get that you're pissed. I'd be pissed too. But this isn't some conspiracy against you. Dad saw an opportunity to help me when I really needed it. This is my house. Do you even hear yourself? What the hell is wrong with you people? Dude, calm down. You've got a good job. You're single. No kids. You can live anywhere. He gestures around the room. I've got a girlfriend. I'm trying to put my life back together after my marriage exploded. This place gives me a chance to do that. The entitlement was staggering. Okay, I'll calm down. Don't get too comfortable, I say, trying so hard to not shove him with his bitch out of my house. I drive to speak with Dad. He was at Mom's house. They'd been divorced for 3 years, but he still showed up whenever he needed something, sitting on the back porch with a drink like he didn't have a care in the world. There he is, Roberto said when he saw me, like we were meeting for a casual barbecue. I was wondering when you'd show up. You gave Carlos my effing house. Language, son. Your mother's inside. Dad gestured to the chair next to him. Sit down. Let's talk about this like adults. I stayed standing. There's nothing to talk about. That's my house. Roberto took a long sip of his drink, looking genuinely puzzled by my reaction. I thought you'd understand. Carlos is going through a really rough time with the divorce. He doesn't have anywhere to go. The thing about Roberto is he's never been a screamer. He's a gaslighter. He'll make you feel crazy for having reasonable reactions to unreasonable situations. Growing up, Carlos could punch holes in walls, and Dad would find ways to make it my fault for provoking him. And that's my problem, how? He's your brother. Dad said it like that explained everything. Like being related automatically made Carlos's problems my responsibility. Look, I know you worked hard for that place, and I'm proud of you for that. But you're doing well for yourself. Steady job, good income. You'll bounce back from this. He genuinely believed Carlos deserved the house more than I did, because he was in worse shape. I've been paying that mortgage for 2 years, every month out of my own paycheck. I know, and that shows real responsibility. But Carlos needs a fresh start, and you're young enough to start over if you need to. Start over? I'm 28 years old. I bought that house to build a life. Son, when I was your age, I understood that family comes first. Sometimes you make sacrifices for the people you love. He leaned forward, his voice getting softer, more reasonable. Carlos is hitting rock bottom. His ex-wife took everything in the divorce, and you know how hard it's been for him to find steady work. Because he keeps getting fired for showing up drunk. That's not fair. He's been struggling with some personal issues, but he's getting help. This house could be exactly what he needs to turn his life around. I stared at him, trying to figure out if he actually believed what he was saying, or if this was all an act. His face was earnest, concerned, the expression of a father trying to do right by both his sons. What about me, Dad? You need to help your brother. That's what good people do. He stood up and put his hand on my shoulder. Look, I know this is a shock. I probably should have talked to you first. But Carlos was in such bad shape, and the opportunity came up to help him. What opportunity? Well, since my name was on the deed as co-signer, I had the legal right to transfer the property. He's going to take over the mortgage payments, so you won't be stuck with that burden anymore. The casual way he said it made my blood boil. It's not a burden. It's my house. Roberto's smile faltered for just a second. It was your house. And honestly, son, it might be better this way. You've been working so much lately, barely have time for a social life. Maybe this is a chance for you to find a nice apartment closer to town and meet some people your age. I'm not moving out of my house. What do you mean you won't? It's not your house anymore. I've already signed the paperwork. Carlos's name is on the deed. The mask slipped completely. No more concerned father trying to help both sons. This was a man who'd made his decision and expected me to fall in line. Oh, really? You can't just do that, Dad. Actually, I can. Co-signers have certain rights, son. He sat back down, looking tired suddenly. Look, I know you're upset. Change is hard, but give it a few weeks, and you'll see this was the right thing to do. Right, sure. I started to leave, but Roberto called after me. Son, I hope you're not thinking about making this more complicated than it needs to be. The threat was subtle but clear. Don't fight this, or things will get ugly. Yeah, don't worry about that. Then I left and drove away. He had stolen my house and somehow made it sound like he was doing me a favor. Funny how they thought I'd let them do that. Game on. The next morning, I drove to the house early to grab some of my clothes and important documents, while Carlos was still sleeping off whatever he'd consumed the night before. He was awake, sitting on my front porch, drinking coffee from my favorite mug, the one Uncle Rico had brought me back from his trip to Ireland. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept well. Morning, he said. I was hoping you'd come by. I need to get some of my stuff. Yeah, of course, but can we talk first? I feel like things got a little heated yesterday. He actually looked uncomfortable. For a split second, I wondered if maybe he was having second thoughts about the whole thing. Maybe some part of his conscience was still functioning. Look, I know this is messed up, he continued. I didn't ask Dad to do this. When he told me about the house transfer, I was as shocked as you are. But you're not leaving. I can't. I literally have nowhere else to go. He set down his coffee and rubbed his face. Marisol cleaned me out in the divorce. Took the house, the car, maxed out our joint credit cards before I even knew what was happening. Here's the thing Carlos conveniently left out. Marisol found out about his affairs because he was stupid enough to use their joint credit card to pay for hotel rooms with his side pieces. She didn't clean him out. She protected herself from a cheating drunk who was bleeding their finances dry. So you're just going to steal mine? I'm not stealing anything. Dad made this decision. Rationally? You're doing well for yourself. I'm starting from zero. Carlos looked up at me, and I could see genuine desperation in his eyes. I'm getting my stuff. Sure, but there might be some complications with that. And there it was. The real Carlos slipping out from behind the victim act. What kind of complications? He pulled out his phone and showed me a photo of my bedroom. Boxes were stacked against the wall, and my closet was mostly empty. Vanessa's been going through everything, trying to figure out what's yours versus what belongs to the house. Some of the stuff is pretty obvious, but other things? He shrugged. Like that bedroom set. Didn't Dad help you pick that out when you first moved in? I paid for it. With money he lent you? I tried to remember. Roberto had come shopping with me, and he'd insisted on buying lunch afterward. But I was pretty sure I'd paid for the furniture myself. I don't remember him lending me money for furniture. He remembers it differently. Says he gave you cash toward the bedroom set and the dining room table. Figured it was a housewarming gift, but technically it was a loan. That's bullshit. Maybe. But look, Carlos continued, I don't want to fight with you about stuff. Take whatever you need for now, and we'll figure out the rest later. Dad says once I get back on my feet, we can work out some kind of compensation for the improvements you made to the place. Compensation? You put work into this house. New tile in the bathroom, finished basement, stuff like that. Dad thinks you should be reimbursed for the materials and labor. The condescension was unreal. They were going to compensate me for improving my own house. Like I was a contractor they'd hired instead of the freaking owner. Your stuff's in boxes in the garage, Carlos said, standing up. Take what you need. And hey, maybe we can grab a drink sometime soon. Talk through all this family stuff like adults. He went back inside, leaving me standing on my own front porch, feeling like I'd just been politely evicted from my own life. I drove straight to Uncle Rico's shop. Rico owned a plumbing business and had always been the only family member who saw through Carlos's bullshit. If anyone would help me figure out what the hell to do, it was him. Rico was my dad's younger brother, but the two couldn't have been more different. Where Roberto was all smooth talk and manipulation, Rico was a straight shooter who'd earned everything he had. Served 2 tours in Afghanistan, came home and built his business from nothing. The kind of guy who kept his word and expected the same from others. He took one look at my face and locked the front door of his shop. What happened? I told him everything. The house transfer, Carlos's threats, Dad's manipulation. He listened without interrupting, but I could see his jaw getting tighter with every detail. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Your father's lost his goddamn mind, he said finally. And Carlos? Christ, that boy's turned into a real piece of work. Rico had watched Carlos grow up too. He'd seen the patterns, the excuses, the way Roberto always bailed him out. But even Rico seemed shocked by the scope of this scheme. Rico, I don't know what to do. They've got lawyers, they've got documents, and they're making me look like I'm crazy for being upset about it. You're not crazy. You're being robbed. Rico walked to his desk and pulled out a business card. This is Sofia Herrera, best real estate lawyer in the county. Handled my divorce when Carmen tried to take the business. Can she help? If anyone can, it's her. But first, we need to get you somewhere safe to stay and start documenting everything. Your father committed fraud. Rico grabbed his jacket. You're staying at my place until this gets sorted out. I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm telling. Your grandfather would roll over in his grave if he knew what his sons were doing to each other. Rico's house was like Rico himself. No bullshit, everything in its place, built to last. His workshop was immaculate. His tools organized like a military arsenal. That night, sitting in Rico's kitchen, I called Sofia Herrera. She agreed to see me first thing Monday morning. Bring every document you have, she said. And I mean everything. Loan papers, emails, text messages, photos. If they're playing dirty, we need ammunition. Saturday morning, Rico and I drove to the house to get my boxes from the garage. Carlos's Honda was gone, which gave me hope that we could get in and out without drama. We were loading the last box into Rico's truck when Carlos pulled up with 2 other guys I didn't recognize. Big guys. What the hell are you doing here? Carlos got out of the car, his face red with anger. Getting his belongings, Rico said calmly. From the garage, like you told him. I said he could take what was his. I didn't say he could bring backup. I'm his uncle, not backup. One of Carlos's friends stepped forward. Maybe you should leave, old man. Rico had been a Marine for 20 years, before he started his plumbing business. He was 62 years old and still looked like he could break someone in half. Son, I was fighting wars before you were out of diapers. You really want to try me? The guy backed down, but Carlos was just getting started. This is harassment. I'm calling the cops. Go ahead, Rico said. Tell them you're living in a house that was fraudulently transferred to you. There's nothing fraudulent about it. Dad had every right. Your dad had co-signer rights on the loan. That doesn't make him a co-owner of the property. Rico stepped closer to Carlos. But you know what does make someone a co-owner? Paying the mortgage for 2 years, which your brother did, while you were busy losing your marriage and your job? Carlos's face went white. You don't know what you're talking about. I know that real estate law doesn't give a shit about your daddy's feelings. And I know that when this goes to court, you're gonna look like exactly what you are. A deadbeat trying to steal from his brother. We finished loading the truck and drove away, leaving Carlos screaming threats in the driveway. Think he'll actually call the cops? I asked. Probably, but let him. Every time they investigate and find nothing, it hurts his credibility. That afternoon, Roberto called me. Rico's filling your head with nonsense, he said without any greeting. This doesn't have to get ugly. It's already ugly. You stole my house. I helped Carlos when he needed it. If you can't understand that, then maybe we don't have anything to talk about. Maybe we don't. Fine. But understand this. If you drag this family through a legal battle, if you cost Carlos his home and his future, I'll never forgive you. And neither will your mother. Mom knows about this. She knows Carlos needed help. She knows you're being selfish and vindictive. Another lie. I called Mom immediately after hanging up with Roberto. Honey, what's going on? Elena said. Your father said you're threatening to sue Carlos? Mom, did Dad tell you he gave Carlos my house? Long pause. He said he was helping Carlos with a housing situation. By taking my house and giving it to him. That can't be right. Your father wouldn't. But her voice trailed off, and I could hear the doubt creeping in. Elena had been married to Roberto for 30 years before their divorce. She knew what he was capable of. Mom, Carlos is living in my house right now. Dad transferred the deed without telling me. Oh my God. And there's more. I told her about Carlos's threats, the plan to claim my belongings. With every detail, I could hear Mom getting angrier. I'm so sorry, honey. I had no idea. I know, Mom. But I need you to know the truth because Dad's going to try to turn you against me. Never. That house represents everything you've worked for. I'm not going to let them take that away from you. What can you do? More than you think. Your father's been using me as his character witness for years. Time to see how he likes it when I tell the truth. Monday morning, Sofia Herrera's office. She was exactly what I needed. Sharp, and clearly pissed off after reviewing my documents. This is textbook real estate fraud, she said, spreading papers across her desk. Your father had no legal right to transfer this property. Co-signers guarantee loan payments. They don't own the property. So I can get it back? Absolutely, but there's more. She pulled out a document I'd never seen before. He also took out a home equity line of credit 3 months ago. $15,000, using your property as collateral. He told me he could do that as a co-signer. Complete bullshit. Look at this loan application. Sophia pointed to a signature line at the bottom. That's supposed to be your signature approving the credit line. I stared at the signature. It looked like mine. Someone had definitely practiced. But the details were wrong. That's not my signature. I know. I had a handwriting expert examine it yesterday. It's a decent forgery, but there are clear tells that prove it's fake. Sophia flipped to another document. Here's where it gets really interesting. Your father used something called a quitclaim deed to transfer the property to Carlos. What's that? A legal shortcut that's supposed to be used between family members who trust each other. It transfers property rights without requiring a title search or extensive documentation. Normally harmless, but in this case, he used it to steal my house. Exactly. He filed the quitclaim deed with Carlos's name as the new owner, then immediately used Carlos's ownership to justify the equity loan. Very slick, actually. Sophia showed me more paperwork. Bank records, loan applications, property transfer documents. The scheme was more sophisticated than I'd realized. Your father knew enough about real estate law to exploit several loopholes, she continued. The quitclaim deed was technically legal, since his name was on the original mortgage. The bank processed the equity loan, because their system showed Carlos as the new owner. But the forged signature is where he crossed the line into criminal territory. How did the bank not catch the fake signature? Most banks don't verify signatures on equity loans, unless there's a dispute. They rely on identity documents and credit checks. Your father probably provided Carlos's ID and social security number then forged your signature on the consent forms. So what can we do? We file criminal fraud charges and demand immediate reversal of all transactions. The forged signature alone is a felony. Add in the unauthorized property transfer and the theft by deception, and your father's looking at serious jail time. Sophia leaned back in her chair, and I could see she was enjoying this. Your father thought he was being clever, but he left a paper trail a mile long. Every document he filed, every signature he forged, every lie he told the bank, it's all evidence. She filed for an emergency injunction to stop any further damage to the property and demanded a full accounting of all transactions related to the house. She also filed criminal complaints for fraud, identity theft, and forgery. The beautiful thing about financial fraud is that everything leaves a digital footprint, Sophia explained as we prepared for court. Your father's bank records show he deposited the equity loan funds into an account he shares with Carlos. The loan application has metadata showing it was filled out on your father's home computer. And the forged signature? It was witnessed by Carlos, which makes him an accessory. What about Carlos's claim that Dad had co-signer rights? Pure fiction. I pulled the original loan documents. Your father is listed as guarantor only, which means he's responsible for payments if you default, but he has zero ownership rights. The bank's loan officer who approved the equity line should have caught this, but they relied on the fraudulent quitclaim deed showing Carlos as owner. So the bank screwed up too? Massively. We're going after them for damages as well. Within a week, the local newspaper picked up the story. Family Feud reveals elaborate real estate fraud made the front page, complete with details about forged signatures and banking failures that let the fraud proceed. The article was brutal. It detailed Roberto's scheme, Carlos's criminal history, and the bank's negligence. Suddenly, everyone in town knew what they'd tried to do to me. Carlos went full victim mode, claiming I was a mentally unstable person who couldn't handle family success. Roberto backed him up, telling everyone that I'd always been resentful of Carlos's achievements. Carlos's achievements. The guy who'd been fired from 6 jobs in 5 years? But Mom went nuclear in response. She called the newspaper and told them the real story. 28 years of Roberto favoring Carlos, enabling his failures, and treating me like a second-class citizen. She provided examples, dates, details that painted a picture of systematic favoritism and emotional abuse. Roberto always treated Carlos like he could do no wrong, Mom told the reporter. When Carlos crashed his car drunk at 17, Roberto blamed the other driver. When Carlos got fired for stealing tools, Roberto said his boss was jealous. This house theft is just the latest in a pattern of enabling. Roberto was furious. He called me screaming about Elena's betrayal and demanding I make her shut up. You turned my own ex-wife against me, he said. I didn't turn her against you. I just told her the truth. The truth? The truth is that you're a selfish little prick who can't stand seeing his brother succeed. Carlos isn't succeeding. He's stealing. He's taking what should have been his from the beginning. I made a mistake putting that house in your name. Should have known you'd use it to hurt the family. The mask was completely off now. Roberto wasn't even pretending this was about helping Carlos anymore. This was about punishment. Punishment for succeeding where Carlos had failed, for being everything Carlos wasn't. Meanwhile, Uncle Rico was working his own angle. He'd called in favors with contractors all over the county, spreading the word about what Carlos and Roberto had done. In a small town, reputation matters, and Roberto's reputation was getting destroyed. 3 different suppliers cut off Roberto's credit accounts. His golf buddies started avoiding him. The local VFW Post, where Roberto had been treasurer for 5 years, asked him to step down pending the resolution of the legal issues. Community pressure, Rico explained. Sometimes it works better than courts. But Carlos was getting desperate, which made him dangerous. He started showing up at my job sites, telling my coworkers that I was mentally unstable and might become violent. He called my boss with concerns about my emotional state and my family problems. Most people saw through it, but it was humiliating. Having to explain to my crew that my own brother was trying to sabotage my livelihood was probably the lowest point of the whole ordeal. Then he made his biggest mistake. 6 weeks into the legal battle, Carlos got impatient. The injunction meant he couldn't make any major changes to the house, couldn't take out additional loans against it, couldn't even sell my furniture. He was stuck in limbo, and Carlos had never been good with delayed gratification. So he decided to force the issue. I got a call from my neighbor, Mrs. Morales, at 2 a.m. on a Thursday. Honey, I think someone's breaking into your house. Mrs. Morales was 73 and had lived next door since before I bought the place. Sweet lady who baked cookies for the mailman and knew everyone's business. The kind of neighbor who notices everything. I was staying at Rico's, 30 minutes away. By the time I got there, the damage was done. Carlos had staged a break-in, smashed the front window, scattered belongings around, claimed someone had broken in and trashed the place. He'd called the cops, filed a report, and was standing in my front yard playing the victim when I arrived. "Thank God you're here," he said loudly enough for the cops to hear. Someone really did a number on the place. But he wasn't as smart as he thought he was. He'd stolen things that no burglar would take. Old photo albums, personal documents, sentimental items with no resale value. He'd left behind my expensive power tools, my TV, and my laptop. What kind of burglar steals family photos but leaves electronics? Plus, the dumbass didn't know Mrs. Morales had been watching from her window. She told the cops she'd seen Carlos leaving the house right before she called it in. She'd thought it was suspicious that he was carrying boxes to his car at 1 a.m. The investigator wasn't an idiot. Within an hour, he was asking Carlos some very pointed questions about his whereabouts and why he happened to be at the house so late at night. "I was checking on the place," Carlos said, "making sure everything was secure. At 1 in the morning? I work late shifts. What's your job?" "I'm between jobs right now." The cop looked at Carlos like he was something scraped off a shoe. But here's where he really screwed up. In his rush to stage the break-in, he'd grabbed some of my documents that were actually important. Paperwork related to the house lawsuit, correspondence with Sofia Herrera, bank statements proving I'd been making the mortgage payments. When the cops inventoried the stolen items, they found documents that Carlos legally shouldn't have had access to. Documents that were crucial to our court case. Sofia was practically grinning when she called me the next morning. "Your brother just handed us the case on a silver platter. Staging a false police report is a felony. Theft of legal documents is another felony. And now we can argue that he's been interfering with the legal process. Carlos is going to jail, and your father's going to lose his co-signer rights for enabling a criminal." The criminal charges changed everything. Roberto tried to spin it as a misunderstanding, but even he couldn't explain away the fake break-in. His narrative of being a caring father helping his troubled son collapsed when that son turned out to be an actual criminal. The court hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Sofia was confident we'd get the house back, but she warned me that Carlos might try something desperate. She was right. 3 days before the court hearing, Carlos made one last play. If he couldn't keep the house, he was going to make sure I couldn't have it either. I got the call from Uncle Rico at 6 a.m. "You need to get to the house. Now." What happened? Just get here. I drove to the house expecting more vandalism, or maybe another staged crime. What I found was worse. Carlos had started a renovation project, without permits, without contractors, without any freaking clue what he was doing. He'd torn out walls, ripped up flooring, and begun demolishing the kitchen. The house looked like a war zone. The kitchen was completely gutted, cabinets ripped from the walls, countertops smashed with a sledgehammer, appliances moved to the backyard. He'd torn out the bathroom upstairs, exposing pipes and electrical that were now hanging loose. The hardwood floors I'd refinished myself were torn up, leaving bare subfloor and scattered nails. "When did this happen?" "It started yesterday," Rico said. "Mrs. Morales called me when she saw the construction dumpster show up." "Can he do this?" "Hell no. The injunction specifically prohibits alterations to the property, but the damage was already done." Carlos had systematically destroyed anything that made the house livable. No working kitchen, no functioning bathroom upstairs, holes in the walls, exposed wiring everywhere. Why would he do this? Rico looked at me like I was missing something obvious. "Because if he can't have it, he's making sure you can't either." I called Sofia immediately. She was already on her way. "This is criminal destruction of property," she said when she saw the damage. "We can have him arrested today. How much will it cost to fix this?" She walked through the house taking photos, her expression getting grimmer with each room. 15, maybe 20,000. He knew exactly what he was doing. Carlos had targeted the most expensive systems to repair. The electrical work would need to be completely redone. The plumbing had been damaged when he tore out the kitchen. The hardwood floors were ruined. But here's the thing about nuclear options. They tend to backfire on the person using them. When the judge saw the photos of Carlos's destruction, she was real pissed. "Mr. Vasquez," she said to Carlos, "you've committed multiple felonies in an attempt to deprive your brother of his rightful property. You filed false police reports, stolen legal documents, and now you've destroyed property that was under court protection." Carlos's bottom-feeder lawyer tried to argue that the renovations were improvements, but the judge wasn't having it. "Improvements? You've made the property uninhabitable." She ruled immediately. Property transferred back to me, Carlos banned from the premises, criminal charges to be filed for destruction of property and violation of the court order. But the best part was Roberto's reaction. When he saw the photos of what Carlos had done, he finally understood what his golden child really was. I didn't know he was going to do this, Roberto said to me after the hearing. Yes, you did. Maybe not the specifics, but you knew Carlos would rather destroy something than let me have it. You've been watching him do it his whole life. He tried to apologize, tried to explain, tried to make me understand that he'd just been trying to help, but it was too late. The damage was done, and not just to the house. 6 months later, I'm writing this from my kitchen table. In my house, which I've spent the last 4 months rebuilding from Carlos's destruction. The renovation actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Insurance covered most of the damage, and I was able to upgrade everything while I was fixing it. New kitchen, new bathrooms, refinished floors, updated electrical. The house is better now than it ever was. Carlos pled guilty to avoid jail time, but he's still facing 5 years probation and has to pay restitution for the damage. He's living in some shitty apartment across town, working part-time at a gas station. Vanessa left him the day after his arrest, which surprised no one except Carlos. Turns out Vanessa was only with him because she thought he owned a house. Once that was gone, so was she. Roberto and I haven't spoken since the court hearing. Elena says he's been going to therapy, trying to understand his role in the family dysfunction. Uncle Rico comes by every weekend to help with projects around the house. We finished a deck last month, and we're planning a workshop in the basement. I'm seeing someone new, a girl named Gabriella. She knows the whole story and thinks my family is insane, but respects the fact that I fought for what was mine. She's got her own place, her own career, her own life. She doesn't need me to rescue her, which is exactly what I was looking for after watching Carlos's relationship disasters. The house is completely mine now. No co-signers, no family claims, no one who can take it away from me. I refinanced everything in my own name, and the deed has only one signature on it. Last week, Carlos had the balls to text me asking if I'd be a reference for an apartment application. Apparently, his credit's so screwed from the criminal charges that landlords won't touch him. I screenshotted the message and sent it to Uncle Rico with the caption, "The audacity." Then I blocked Carlos's number and went back to drinking on the deck we built together.